Okay, so once you've prepared your paper and you have got your stencils, we can start working. So this is going to be the front page of our little samples. So we'll reserve that for when we've had a little experiment and we can put a really good design on the front there. If I open it up, so I've got that little flat piece at the back, it's not bendy, that's going to get stuck down to the page. So when I open it up, this bit here is going to be my page one of my sample. So the first thing we're going to have a little go at is, and I'll zoom in, the first thing I want you to have a go at is pressing heavy with a pastel and then pressing very, very light. And for the last bit, I'm just going to smudge and get a very light tone there at the end. Just very gently put a little bit more on and smudge. So what I should have there is a gradient going from dark to light. Heavy colour, and you can always apply more if you need to. Heavy colour and very light colour. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to use my stencil, put my stencil down. I'm going to have a little go at in the top corner there, and just be gentle because the stencil is only made of paper. We don't want it to tear, so just be gentle. You can make a dark tone by really layering up the chalk. So I've got a nice dark tone there, and as I come down across here onto the right side of the heart, I'm just going to start to get a little bit lighter now. Graffiti artists tend to play around with tone quite a bit. They play around with colour and tone. There we go, and I'm doing all of this while holding my stencil in place. I might even put a little bit more of colour in that top corner just to make it a bit more obvious that it's dark. I might even use my rubber just to get in some marks, as though it's a balloon or something. So you could draw some little shapes and some little symbols on using your rubber. It's much harder on the dark side, easier on the lighter side. Just some little marks just to make it look a bit graffiti-ish. And then if I lift it off carefully, got a little piece of artwork there. Any marks that you don't want, you could just rub away. And once you're happy with it, we can set it using a setting spray. There we go. So the next one we're going to look at, so that's a gradient where we're using different tones. The next thing that we're going to look at is blending two colours together. Now purple and green are my favourite colours, so I'm going to blend my two favourite colours together. I've started out on one side with one colour, on the other side with another colour, and I'm just going to pick the lightest one, which I think is the green, and very lightly I'm just going to work that into the purple. Just like that, and then I can pick up the purple and start pushing that back into the green, but very, very gently if you're wanting them to blend. And then I'm going to use my finger just to help the colours blend. So pushing your light colour into your darker colour, just like that. Right, okay. You could use this part of the stencil, but I'm going to go for the other part of the stencil. I'm going to use this part and see how this works. So it is a bit tricky because you've got to hold it in place. You could use a little bit of blue tack or a little bit of glue. I'm going to do the opposite way now. I'm going to do the green at the top. And I'm going to do the purple down here, making sure that wherever you were putting that chalk, you're holding the stencil in place. So there's my purple, and then I'm going to use my finger pushing that lighter colour into the darker colour. And what we'll get is a mix. If you start pulling the darker colour up because your finger's dirty, just use a different finger. Before you take the stencil up, just make sure that every part is covered. You're nice and happy with it. And there we go. Blended chalks, just like a proper graffiti artist. And we've used a stencil. So there's lots of different techniques there. A gradient from dark to light, using the rubber to create some marks. And then we've got blending. And again, if you wanted to add to this design, using your rubber. And just put some little marks on the page, you could do that. There we go, but if you don't want to spoil your work, that's absolutely fine. So there we go, we've got some samples created. Now on the front, so I'm going to fold them back, and then I can put my glue on here and stick it to my frame. But I need a front design doing, so that is totally up to you what you want to do on your front design. I quite enjoyed the blending, so I'm going to have a little go at the blending.